Hi, it's Angie with News OK. I am here in the kitchen with Sherrel Jones, who is our passion for food columnist for the Oklahoman. And the national championship is tomorrow night. OU is playing Florida. We've got your national championship dish. Tell us what we're making today.
Well, I think the cook will be the champion at least if you make some what we call Sooner stew.
There we go.
And and I thought it might be fun to have a stew while you enjoy the game.
It's perfect because it's cold outside.
It's probably going to be cold here, and I don't know what it'll be like there.
Yeah. Okay,
we'll
so
see. Tell
us what's in it.
I have stew meat here, and any of the chuck cuts, like a chuck steak or something, meats that are good for braising, they tenderize a little bit as you cook them. And I like to lightly season them with flour and a little salt and pepper.
Okay.
And then we have preheated a little bit of oil in a skillet. And it's not necessary that you just totally cake the flour on them. This kind of helps the stew thicken a little bit later on. I'm going to put a little bit of salt on it. And that, of course, helps the juices in the meat sort of come out into the pan. Now, it's important that I don't just dump the whole thing in the stew pan. This is the secret to making really good stew, is to saute a little bit at a time so the meat has a chance to brown thoroughly on all sides.
Yeah.
So we're just going to put some in there. You can hear it
You
sizzle.
can hear it sizzle, yeah.
You don't want the oil that you've put in the bottom of the skillet to get smoky. Anything. It's not necessary to do that, but you do want to hear a little bit of the sizzle. And then that is cooking pretty rapidly, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And we're using a little bitty pan. I've already made a nice batch of stew. And we're using this small pan just to show how we don't want to crowd it.
So how much meat do you think?
Oh gosh, well, I like to think about a pound for about 3 or 4 people. And it depends on whether you've got big eaters. It's different if you had big strapping guys or little children to eat the stew. So that depends. And so I also like to make enough stew that I've got some left over that I can heat up for lunch later in the week. And so as that starts to saute, we want to turn it so we kind of brown it on all sides. It's better to do this slowly rather than rapidly.
All right, so here's the meat. We have let it set about 5 or 10 minutes. It's sauteed. Now tell us what we're doing from here.
Well, what we've done is we've sauteed it to sort of brown the meat on all sides, and as it's been finished cooking, I've been popping the meat out and putting it aside. And you see it's browned, and this is the part that gives the stew its flavor. And particularly what's left in the pan at the end of the browning. This is, chefs call this fond. Or if you think of it like fondue, it's almost like we've just done that with our meat, except we don't use that much oil in the pan. And then we would go ahead, put this back on the stove and saute our vegetables to get the flavor. Except in the Sooner stew, one of the things that I decided to do was to get maximum flavor out of the red peppers and you can use the little bitty ones that are like this. They're not particularly hot. Or you can use the great big red sweet peppers and then cut them up. And if you oven roast them, and you could also oven roast some extra tomatoes if you want. I do want to show you the red peppers in the that have been done in the oven. And I've already taken about half of these off, but these are oven roasted, and so it intensifies the flavor in the pepper. So that just adds that much more flavor to the stew. And we'll go ahead and add this to the stew and the extra meat, and we'll make it just absolutely wonderful.
I know it, and our final product is Sooner stew.
Sooner stew, yes, and the Sooner stew has one other interesting component. I decided we needed some gators in this stew.
Yes.
So for our gators that have been slain on the field here of the stew, we have some whole green beans just lying around.
I love it.
After the game. They're not jumping up and down.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And we also have these creative.
Yes, we're going to fix our bowl,
Yes.
and we've cut out of peppers these nice little
Oh, that one's not working. Here we go.
OU shapes. We've used these small peppers, and so we just made a slice. That's the O, and another slice that we cut one side off. So we have the O and the U.
Oh, I love
so
it.
we could put it on our bowl or in the center of the stew.
So there you go. So
Yes.
yeah, Sooner stew.
Sooner stew.
It's good for you, and it
Absolutely.
also just obviously
It'd be a great
reaffirms-
game time meal.
Yes, definitely, but it reaffirms that
Right.
we're gonna, definitely beat these Gators.
Right.
So it's a
Well, and if you can't quite do the Sooner stew, now see, I'm an OSU person, so if you can't quite do the Sooner stew, you can also make our cowboy stew, which is made in the oven, and that recipe you'll also find in the paper today.
Yes,
So whichever one
wonderful.
you like.
Exactly,
They're made
exactly.
by two different classic methods of making stew.
Oh, love it. You can't go wrong with stew in the winter. Thank you so much, Sherrel.
Thank
Check
you,
out the
Angie.
Oklahoman, and you can find Sherrel's food column on Sooner Stew and I guess also Cowboy Stew. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Okay, bye.